So let's make our game. I've decided to make a mobile FPS game inspired by Apex Legends and the Max Payne game. And here we are. So if we click the right click, we are able and hold and then drag the mouse, we are able to see what is around us. So if we right click and then move forward, WASD, we are able to move inside the what do you call this? The viewport, I guess. Inside the environment rather. And this is the viewport. So if we right click again and then press Q, we go down. If we press E, we go up. So yeah. So let's now make our scene. And we have here in the scene navigation file, I guess. So let's create our world. So we have here a node, and let's Control S to save the scene. Let's name it world. Now we have our scene named world, and we have here a node 3D, and Godot consists of nodes. Apparent, it has a 3 node. So let's name it as world first. Okay, Control S. And since our world scene is empty, let's use this parent node world to create a ground. So if we push this plus or simply Control A, there would be a window full of other nodes. And what we want is a node called mesh. Is it mesh? Yeah, I think so. So mesh instance 3D. Wait. So mesh, and then let's put here, let's create new plane. Okay. And let's put it upward a little bit. And the size would be inside here. Is it? I think it's the geometry. Wait. Oh, there it is. We click this one. And then the size, then just to make it larger. So mesh instance 3D is what renders. It is used to render something, but there is no collision yet. It's just used to render a shape or an object, something. It is for visuals only. So you Control S again. And what we want to do is that next thing we would do is that let's create a player. Since we have now our ground, let's create our player. So we create a scene again. And here we have another, we are in a new environment because we are in a new scene. So if we click this is the world and this is a new scene. And what we want to do is to click this other node. So if we click this one, it's actually the same as this one. So let's just simply Control A. And I want to create a node. Or camera. I think let's use this one, 3D. And then Control S. And then name it as player. Since this is empty, let's name it as player. Oh, sorry for the noise. So we have to make the body of our player. So just like we did, let's create a mesh. just to render something. In our case, we would click, wait, so we instantiated the mesh with a 3D, and that mesh would be the capsule. Okay, we now have the body of our player. Let's Control S, and it needs a viewport or the camera, the point of view of the player here. So if we control or so if we click this one, we would see what the capsule or the player sees, or we simply Control P. Okay, so we go up, we put it up because this is the head part. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we now have our camera. So since we have rendered the body of our player, let's customize it a little bit. Let's set its color to blue. So we click the geometry in the material overlay. Is it? No, material over, what do you call this? Override. And then click the new standard material rather. And then click again. And in my case, I'll put it albedo in a blue color. Nice. Okay. And we need, wait, whoa, I made a mistake. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait. So that is wrong. So what we want to do is that we take another node and then pick the rigid body. And if you see here, if we click the caution, it says this node has no shape, so it can't collide or interact with other objects. So we would have to consider adding collision shape 3D or this one. In my case, I want to use this one. So let's name this to player, and then add a mesh to, again, to render, just to say, hey, this is my player. That player would be in a capsule. I'm gonna customize it a little bit. Geometry, material override, new standard material 3D. Click again, and then albedo to blue. Okay. Now, we will have to add a collision shape, correct? Because of this. So, if we click, by adding a collision shape, we can click this one, the mesh instance 3D. And then if you see here, we could either use the trimesh static body or simply a simplified convex collision sibling. However, the create trimesh static body is used for ground or static. It does not move, but our player moves, okay? So we should use simplified convex collision sibling. So we now have a collision shape. So again, what is a mesh instance 3D and a collision shape 3D? It is, if you navigate here, um, it is a child of our player node, and they are both siblings. So if we unsee here, it only renders the player, which is the capsule. However, it doesn't, there is no physical uh structure. What do you call this? It's not solidified. It only renders something. So perhaps if you so perhaps there is a gun here, and you shoot this blue thing, and then you 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 fire the gun, and then poosh, poosh, it would only pass through the capsule. So because it only renders something. And if we add a collision shape, this one, see, this is the collision shape. So this is what it is used to collide something, meaning if we fire a gun at it, it would actually hit this one because it has a collision shape. So if we combine it with a, but it would be invisible because there is no mesh. So if we fire a gun, there would be an invisible collision. So perhaps if you played games and there would be an invisible wall, actually that is the collision shape without the mesh instance. So we add here the mesh instance to render that something is in here. So if we shoot, of course, the bullet would hit this one. Okay, now we have to add, just like we did with the camera. Mhm. Okay, let's put it in here because this is our head. Control save, Control P. Now we can see what our capsule see. The world. Anyways, let's now, I guess that's done now. Let's navigate to the world and let's add this player object to the world, to our world scene. So we can use that, or we can do that by simply clicking the world or the parent node of this one, the they call this, what do you call this, the mesh, the floor rather. So if we add the player, we can, you do that by clicking the parent node of the scene and then click, right click the player scene, instantiate. So the word instantiate meaning to create. So we create our player here. So we go, let's put it up here. And let's add, wait, let me check if it's running. Yeah, it is running. So let's add here. Oops, yeah, let's select current. It would actually fall down. See, it falled down. Now you might be asking why is it brown in the game time while the edit, the in the edit part is actually they had color. That is because we did not customize the mesh instance. And the reason why it kept falling is that the player only had the collision while the floor does not have a collision. So if we go back to our player scene, you can see that it has a collision shape, correct? And we mentioned earlier about the static tri-mesh static body. And if you see here, creates a static body 3D and assigns polygon 3D based collision shape to it automatically. So we use this often for the floors, and we did not actually do that here. So let's create a collision shape for our floor by the tri-mesh static body. And here, so we had created it. We have now a child of, I mean, we now have our mesh instance 3D, a child of static body 3D, and the static body 3D has a collision shape. Now, the reason why is that, why is there static body 3D there? Why can't we just put a collision shape 3D there? That's because we used the tri-mesh static body 3D, tri-mesh static body. So it automatically creates a static body 3D for us for the properties of our floor and then the collision shape of our floor. So if we unsee this one, wait, oh, cannot. So you can see it actually. Yeah, but it's actually the same as this player. So there's no if there is no static body 3D, you would only pass like, oh, the player would only pass through it. However, if there is a collision shape and it is assigned to static body 3D with the use of the tri-mesh static body, of course it would stand in the mesh just like a floor. So if we run it, but before that, let's customize our floor. We can click the mesh, the geometry rather, and the material override. See here. Okay. And then the new standard material 3D. Let's set it to hmm, albedo, let's say orange, green. Ooh, ugly. Orange. Ooh. Anyways, let's just put it to orange and let's run it. Boom. Oh, what the? Wait. So, I forgot. It's so ugly. It's so dull. See? So we forgot to create a sun or environment. So if we create here, I mean, click the world, and then if you see here, the 1, 2, 3 dots, let's add a sun to the scene. You can see the sun now, and then the environment. So this is actually the sun, not that one. This is actually the sun. So if we, let's see, oh, is this? Yeah, I think so. So if we run it again, of course, there would be now a sun to it. But why does it? Okay. Um, I think the reason why we are colliding, or I think the reason why our player is erratic to our word scene is that because um we used in our player. So if we navigate to our player, this is actually a rigid body. If you remember, I added a rigid body. See, wait, there are actually types of body that we can use for 3D. So in my case, I use the rigid body 3D. This one. This I use this rigid body 3D. So the rigid body 3D is um, for something to move or used for player movements. And in what do you call this? It's better to use for me. It's better to use rigid body 3D for ease of use. And since we are making an Apex Legends and the Max Payne clone, we would need those like the ragdoll effect. So I use the rigid body 3D. And we can also alternatively we can also use this one, the character body 3D. As you can see, a 3D physics body specialized for color moved by script. But I want um my game or my player to have a more fluid type movement, so I used the rigid body. So as you can see, physics body that is moved by a physics simulation. Yeah, that's it. So anyways, let's go back here. Let's click our rigid body named as player. And if we um click the deactivation, we can see it the lock rotation. So if we um click or enable the lock rotation, the player would now be locked in, and there would be no more unpredictable movement, just like the rolling scene. So if you see here, uh, yeah, that's right, no more. So we have successfully instantiated our world, which is this one, and our player. Now the only thing to do is to make it move. Wait, let's save it. Perhaps that's a next video. Nice.